Welcome back to my E3 2015 predictions. I am a wild sightless and I have appeared. Well, we last left off with Microsoft, who, you'll see my opinions about Microsoft if you decide to look at the video. But now we are on to another heavy hitter in the race for number one company in our hearts, who promises us glory and riches most of the time. Okay, here we go. It's Sony!
I feel a big beat, rock of life. Big beat, talk to me. Hey, whoa. I feel a big.
Now, to begin with this company, we have a outdated news report about Project Morpheus, which is bound to appear at E3. Now, I'm going to imagine that they'll probably release the release date for Project Morpheus. Honestly, I think it's old fucking news now that the Oculus Rift has been diving into infamy and everybody's tired of the whole virtual reality concept. Like, nobody's really, from my understanding, nobody's particularly interested since 2013. I mean, it was a hot topic then, but it just crashed around the, I haven't heard anything about it, at least nothing positive, since the dawn of 2015. So, who knows? I mean, I'm sure that there'll be a handful of people interested in buying it, but I don't think it'll end up being a profit for the company unless they can manage to sell it underneath or approximately close to 100 bones. Nobody's going to pay $150 for a Kinect, at least not for a successful one. And that thing somehow, I don't think that thing came out of profit for Microsoft either. And honestly, I can't help but see the same future for the Project Morpheus. I mean, I could see myself getting it if it was approximately $100, but only for the occasional game. I'm not going to play Mirror's Edge 2 or what have you on the Oculus Rift. It would probably, I hope it can apply to a vast majority of games and not just a select few. Like, I've got the iToy cover right next to me, coincidentally, and I literally only have the one game with it. Literally one game. And that makes me fear for the life of Project Morpheus, or at least the potential anyhow. Sony tends to not, they tend to try to apply themselves to trends like the PlayStation Move and the PlayStation Camera, but they don't have as much of an investment in trends as Microsoft or Nintendo, and that's a bittersweet exchange, because on one hand we have all these peripherals that we have to pay for, and on the other hand, we don't have too many games to support them. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like they gave us a half-baked product to pay for along with our console. That's the problem with peripherals, is if you create enough of a need for a peripheral, we will feel, the customer themselves will feel like they were given an unfinished project from the get-go. And that's all of my thoughts on Project Morpheus right now. We'll probably see a release date for that. Moving on to Uncharted 4, and now this looks fucking fantastic. Hopefully it'll turn out the way that we saw in last year's E3. I'm not sure how they plan to, unfortunately I hope it doesn't turn out into a Watch Dogs situation where they just degrade the quality of it later on once it comes out. But from what I see, it's got plenty of potential. It looks like another Indiana Jones game, and it's called Thief's End, if I believe correctly. And that presumably means that that this is supposed to be the last one. At least the last one with Nathan Drake. excuse me, the developers over at Naughty Dog, all of them are ultimately gone. There's only like a receptionist left. So that makes me wonder, like, who is picking up the mantle here? Like, we can't expect the same quality that we've been getting from the Uncharted series. We're going to have to anticipate a brand new game, a brand new playstyle. I mean, we've already seen rehearsed demo, but that's ultimately all. I mean, I'm sure that we'll see more this at this year's E3, but we won't know until we see it, and I don't think it'll be a big console seller because I don't think a majority of the Uncharted series is, but it'll certainly be a nice addition to its library of solos. I mean, let's face it. Meanwhile, at Microsoft, there isn't too much happening, too much available. Now, on to Street Fighter V, something that has been just pushed super hard by Capcom, because now the PlayStation 4 gets its own adaptation of the same fighter style as Killer Instinct, where we'll be able to play a free-to-play game essentially, but we have to buy skins and characters. And honestly, I think that's very reasonable. I really like that system. For some meager amount of games, the pay-to-play option works. And from what I recall of the advertising, that's what they are aiming for. And so if that remains to be the case, then good. And we're supposed to be able to see Starfire. Street Fighter V by the end of this year, assuming it doesn't get delayed, which means that Sony may have a leg up on Microsoft in that sense, because the only thing, from my understanding, that is coming out this year of their exclusives is Killer Instinct and Halo 5. So there's that. And No Man's Sky. I know it's not a PS4 exclusive, but it's not coming on the Xbone as far as we're aware. And I had to double check to make sure that it was available on PC as well, because No Man's Sky is being pushed really hard by Sony, and I can appreciate that. I'm really excited for No Man's Sky, although I do hope that there's a bit more action than what we've been led to believe. I hope it's not a walking simulator in space, if that makes any sense for you, just a walking simulator with a rocket ship. I mean, that'd be fine, but I wouldn't pay too much for that. I mean, this is not an indie project, but it's close to being it, if I remember correctly. It's not. I believe it's a $40 release, which it has me worried, because that doesn't sound like it has much potential within the product itself. But at the same time, I mean, it's cheap, so there's no complaining about that. I just worry that with a smaller, I just worried that the project won't live up to its potential with a smaller budget than your average AAA game. Still, I'm very much looking forward to it, and as far as I'm aware, everybody who's interested in it is going to pick it up on PS4. I mean, there are definitely going to be a minority that's going to pick it up on Steam, but it seems to me like it's definitely a PS4 optimized video game, because once again I had to double check to make sure that it was going to be a part of the and it was going to be available on the PC. And obviously I hope that we have more Bloodborne DLC announced, because that's the hottest thing on the PS4 right now. Bloodborne. You can't get away from it. You can't escape it. Even people who don't have PS4s are getting nagged the fuck out because they're like, have you played it, Bloodborne? Have you played the Bloodborne? And everybody doesn't have a PS4 is like, no, stop it, shut up. And we're probably going to definitely see some manner of support for it. I hope we don't have any sort of like remake coming so soon from it, or perhaps this is the time to announce Dark Souls 3, because I mean, let's face it, the B team, now that Scholar of the First Sin is done, they've got nowhere else to go. And according to my understanding, Miyazaki is already beginning to work on Dark Souls 3. So that's always a promise, because as long as I feel like the team matters a little bit, but overall, as long as Miyazaki has his level design optimized, then any Bloodborne or Dark Souls title will be essentially really good. I'm just going to come out and say that right now. So I'm hoping primarily for Bloodborne DLC. Now, I don't want it to be chalice dungeons because they're in the game. I don't particularly enjoy them, but it's a thing. It's fine. It doesn't feel as great as the game itself, but you know, it was. If you want more time into Bloodborne, that's an easy way to soak in some more. I'm hoping that the DLC is active areas within the game, rather than that sort of idea, because I mean, the Cleric Bridge, it has so much potential for a DLC area, it's crazy. And I can't wait to see some of that. I can't wait to see some of the mysterious doors that don't open. I can't wait to see what's behind them. And so help me God, there probably is something behind them, they just haven't come up with it yet. I'm sure that the DLC for it will be amazing. Unlike the DLC at Arkham Knight. Alright, there's also, in the rumor mill, a sequel to Last of Us. I doubt it'll be called Last of Us 2, and they will probably start actual production on it after Uncharted 4. Now, let me remind you again, the people over at Naughty Dog, they aren't the same people. They aren't, they are the Rare Studios to Microsoft. Now, they once had a great team, and now they have a completely new team on their hands because I don't know, budgets, what have you. I haven't looked too far into the situation. I just know what's there. The thing about The Last of Us 2 is that I'm probably going to say that it's probably going to be a 2017 release, only because of the fact that, like, they will be doing Uncharted 4. They need to keep up some support for that because, I mean, Uncharted 3 had a Game of the Year edition, and I'm sure they'll be working on Uncharted 4 in the same fashion. But Last of Us 2, we may get a trailer, we may get some screenshots, we may get one of those fucking documentary style, like in production Star Wars Battlefront BS, and God, I hate that. And I'm pretty sure we'll see some of that. And of course, we have a supposed leaked screenshot of Crash Bandicoot. Now, I know that this isn't confirmed, and honestly, I don't see it happening. And here's my explanation for that, is because Crash Bandicoot doesn't have the same following that Spyro or Mega Man or anybody else has. He's a Gex character. People remember him, but the levels, if you go back to him, it's not that great of a game. I mean, a lot of people may probably disagree with me about that, and that's fine. It may not just be my kind of cup of tea, but it doesn't seem authentic to me. I mean, anybody could splice together a screenshot like what we saw, just a random date. I believe it was October 2015, and you just see a clear white image of Crash Bandicoot. I don't see it happening, and I don't know how they would manage to sell that for their system. I mean, one thing that they are pushing super hard for the PS4 is graphical superiority over the Xbox One, and I don't see how developing Crash Bandicoot will help enforce that idea further. And then we've got a whole bunch of anonymous ideas about Jak and Daxter 4. It doesn't seem to me like that's going to be something they'll announce, at least not at the conference. Maybe they'd announce it at, I don't know, Gamescom or something along those lines. There doesn't seem to be too much evidence supporting a Jak and Daxter 4. It feels more like a fan presumption based off of, there being at least one per every PlayStation release. And so yeah, I'm not seeing too much into that. Honestly, my crystal ball tells me nay. And was there another one? I don't believe that. I do believe that was the final of the suggested video game. So I honestly feel like Sony does have a leg up because they do tend to have a lot more focus on actual exclusives as opposed to Microsoft, which, I mean, they'll push Rise of the Tomb Raider. I'm not doubting that whatsoever. But, I mean, Sony, all of these are definitely Sony projects. And they'll probably do some, either them or Microsoft, maybe both will push their indie library. Because let's face it, the indie library these days is a lot better than the AAA library. And Sony has been known to push some occasional multiplats. They may be they may also have an Assassin's Creed Syndicate trailer. Who knows? But that's all that Sony has that they are likely or unlikely to announce. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And for next time, we'll be dealing with the last big ass contender. The people who are pushing for the nostalgia boners for their nostalgia box. It's Nintendo. Let's go. Stay wild.